Harry is taking the case to the Court of Appeal, arguing the bespoke arrangement currently in place leaves him and his family at risk.
Prince Harry and Princess Catherine once shared a strong bond that faded over time. Their story reflects the emotional toll of royal life, shifting loyalties, and painful exposure. What caused their relationship to unravel? How did public revelations deepen the divide? And could illness bring them back together? Prince Harry and Princess Catherine once shared something most royal observers didn't anticipate: true warmth. This was before the rift, before the headlines, and long before the memoirs. Following her marriage to Prince William in 2011, Catherine became a member of the royal family, and Harry appeared to accept her not only as a sister-in-law but also as a confidant and friend. They were frequently seen supporting one another at royal engagements, smiling together at occasions, and glancing at each other in jest. Harry and Catherine's relationship gave the royal story new vitality at a time when the younger royals were working to modernize the monarchy's image. In interviews, Harry praised Catherine, referring to her as the sister I never had. They attended functions together without William, and even within the palace, it was well known that Harry looked to Catherine for emotional support and guidance. They were perceived as having a laid-back, trusting connection. At a time when Harry was still perceived as the more impulsive, occasionally careless royal, Catherine, who was renowned for her composed manner and diplomatic charm, apparently provided a stabilizing influence. When Harry first met American actress Meghan Markle in 2016, everything began to change. In his book, Spare, Harry describes in great detail the moment he presented Meghan to his brother and sister-in-law. He talks about casually bringing up the topic one day and told them about a new woman in his life. Harry claims that William and Catherine were intrigued right away. "Who is she?" they inquired. "Her profession is acting," Harry said. They said, "Oh, she's American. She's on a show called Suits." They reportedly gaped at that. According to Harry, they were curious but taken aback. Both William and Catherine acknowledged that they were series fans and were well aware of Meghan's identity. Recalling that incident, Harry joked that he became anxious that they may ask Meghan to sign an autograph. The atmosphere was light, at least on the surface, and Harry felt relieved. According to early reports from royal sources, Catherine was thrilled to meet Meghan. "Hello," said one source. Meghan and Catherine's first meeting, according to most reports, went well. Reported that Harry and Catherine were very close, and that he really valued her opinion on girlfriends. The two royal spouses were soon dubbed the Fab Four by the media. They posed together at royal functions, made joint appearances, and were viewed as the monarchy's modern-day future. The couples became more well-known as a result of their work on mental health projects, especially the Heads Together campaign. Meghan promptly joined the campaign that Catherine, William, and Harry had been working on for years. The public believed that the monarchy was changing because of its common objectives and prominence. However, beneath the meticulously planned photo calls and happy grins, subtle distinctions were beginning to emerge. Meghan and Harry took a more relaxed and self-reliant approach to royal life. Many royal assistants said they were more irritated with palace bureaucracy, more forthcoming with their emotions in interviews, and more hands-on with the press. In contrast, Catherine and William were regarded as measured, conventional, and more circumspect when it came to public appearances. Although the couple's differences were at first slight, many inside the palace could detect a change in the air. In the months preceding Harry and Meghan's May 2018 wedding, things reached a breaking point. Princess Charlotte's bridesmaid dress was the subject of one specific dispute, which has since been well publicized and mentioned by Harry in Spare. According to reports, Catherine told Meghan that the dress needed to be altered because it didn't fit Charlotte. Harry claims that Meghan replied that the tailor was present at Kensington Palace and prepared to make any necessary adjustments to the outfits. Catherine should take Charlotte for a fitting, she insisted. But there was tension in the conversation between the two women. According to reports, Meghan resisted Catherine's insistence that the dress be remade, and the communications had a passive-aggressive tone. Meghan broke down in tears as the back and forth came to an end. Harry claimed that he attempted to minimize the argument by implying that Catherine hadn't intended any harm when he got home and discovered Meghan distraught. Catherine apologized the following day by bringing a bouquet and a handwritten message. He thought that should have been the end of it based on Harry's account. In retrospect, however, that moment appeared to be the beginning of a subtle fissure that would only deepen with time. Harry and Meghan went on with the wedding in spite of the private conflicts, and the public was mostly ignorant of what had transpired behind the scenes. For a while, the Fab Four carried on with their royal responsibilities, but flaws started to show. Following their move to Frogmore Cottage from Kensington Palace in early 2019, Harry and Meghan legally separated from the royal foundation they had shared with William and Catherine later that year. Many insiders claimed the breakup was the result of growing personal and professional conflicts, but this was justified as a natural growth of their divergent charitable goals. The scrutiny of Harry and Meghan increased along with their global reputation. By the end of 2019, the pair was dealing with constant tabloid pressure, racist remarks about Meghan, and growing annoyance at what they saw as the royal family's lack of support. When the Duke and Duchess of Sussex declared they will resign as senior royals on January 2021, it all came to a head. The public and even some royal family members were taken aback by the choice. Catherine reportedly reacted with great anguish to the news. She was heartbroken, according to several people who spoke to US Weekly and The Telegraph, and felt as though she was losing a family member in addition to a co-worker. According to one insider, Catherine sobbed over the news and was particularly worried that she might never see Harry again. She was also said to have a greater workload as a result of the abrupt departure, since she and William were suddenly responsible for many of the engagements that had previously been split between the four of them. Harry was also experiencing the emotional toll in private. He was troubled by the loss of intimacy with his brother and sister-in-law, even though he had decided to safeguard his wife and future. Silence and tabloid speculation seemed to have supplanted their once-present feeling of common purpose. The difference had become more than just physical. It was now emotional and widely known. It was hard to overlook the rift by the time Harry and Meghan made their last appearance as working royals at the Commonwealth Day service in March of 2021. Instead of being a gracious farewell, the occasion was characterized by stilted interactions and icy stares. In his Netflix documentary, Harry subsequently remarked that the atmosphere was not only obviously cold, but also quite painful. At the very least, he had thought they would act nice for the cameras. However, even that did not occur. Catherine and William are said to have ignored Harry and Meghan's welcomes during the service. Words couldn't express what the pictures taken that day did. Many onlookers saw it as proof that the once close in-laws relationship had indeed soured. By the time Harry and Meghan had resigned from their royal responsibilities, the repercussions were not limited to their brothers, but were now extending throughout the family. Formality and distance now overshadowed what had once been a sincere, casual bond between Harry and Catherine. The public's curiosity grew in the months after they left. According to reports, Catherine was quite offended by Harry's hasty breakup with her, as well as the professional stress it put on her and William. According to a US Weekly source, Catherine thought she would never be able to be close to Harry again since she missed him. Following their departure, Meghan and Harry relocated to North America, initially residing in Canada and then settling in California. The emotional gap only seemed to widen as a result of the physical separation. The warmth that once existed between Harry and Catherine seems to have completely cooled, even if they continued to communicate with other members of the royal family, such as Queen Elizabeth for a while. The casual banter they used to have at royal engagements now looked like a thing of the past. Additionally, the palace maintained its customary silence, providing no confirmations, denials, or explanations, despite the public's continued curiosity about the inner workings of the royal family. Their last appearance together as senior royals was one of the most emblematic events that demonstrated the increasing distance between the two couples. Harry and Meghan were seated separately from William and Catherine on March 9, 2021, at Westminster Abbey during the Commonwealth Day service. There was a noticeable lack of the customary cordial greetings. Observers observed the icy body language as the service went on. There was no small chat or smiles as Harry and Meghan entered the venue, and Catherine hardly recognized them, It felt extraordinarily raw, televised to millions of people. The situation was stressful and emotionally taxing, as Harry subsequently reflected in the Netflix documentary series Harry and Meghan. He acknowledged that, considering the cameras and public environment, he had anticipated some attempt at decorum. However, he claimed that he sensed coldness in both intent and conduct. In April of the following year, Prince Philip's funeral took place, which was another much-awaited occasion. On the recommendation of her physicians, Meghan, who was then expecting their second child, stayed in the United States. Harry made his solo return to the UK, and the media closely followed his return to royal life. Would he get back in touch with Catherine and William? Would any effort be made to mend past injuries? The public experienced a brief glimmer of hope as a result of what transpired outside St. George's Chapel. Catherine was seen talking to Harry as the family walked together after the memorial service. She looked friendly and talkative, a dramatic visual contrast to the icy distance of the year before. She even seemed to lean back a little at one point, allowing Harry and William to talk to each other privately. Not everyone missed that gesture. Critics commended Catherine's tactful diplomacy and implied that she might be the one to bridge the gap. For a minute, it appeared like they may return to a point of understanding via time, sadness, and shared family experience. However, that moment of reconciliation was fleeting. Tension steadily increased during the course of the following year. Harry and Meghan's 6-part documentary series was made available on Netflix in December of 2022. The show presented their version of events, claiming to have been the target of a media disinformation campaign and lacking royal family support. Despite not being specifically mentioned in the story, Catherine and William's lack of defense or assistance prompted more concerns. The contents of Harry's memoir Spare, which was published in January 23 of that year, sparked controversy again a few weeks later. Harry revealed years' worth of issues in the book, not only with the organization, but also with specific family members. One particular anecdote about Catherine and William from 2005 was one of the disclosures that made headlines. According to Harry, he conferred with his brother and sister-in-law when choosing a costume for a party. A Nazi outfit was one of the possibilities. Harry claims that Catherine and William both urged him to wear it. When he tried it on, they laughed and showed no concern, he wrote. With Harry's version of events, this already infamous moment from previous years took on additional significance. In his telling, it suddenly seemed that those closest to him shared what had been perceived as a young royal's poor decision. The reaction was instantaneous. Since the pair had made a concerted effort to keep a dignified silence during the family's difficulties, royal pundits questioned the propriety of naming Catherine in such a delicate story. Not only was the accusation hurtful, but it also occurred during a tense period in the relationship. The fact that Catherine was included in that story was a turning point for many. This appeared to put an end to any remaining hope or trust for reconciliation. There were no public interactions between the couples in the months that followed. Then, in the early 24th century, the globe was taken aback by yet another significant statement. Princess Catherine made an appearance in a BBC video on March 20th. She disclosed in the pre-recorded message that she was receiving treatment for a cancer diagnosis. Following weeks of conjecture regarding her health and lack of public appearances, she made her statement. Catherine clarified in her message that she and her family had required privacy and time to deal with the news. Reports that Harry had not been told the diagnosis beforehand started to circulate almost immediately after the video was released. The televised message informed Harry of Catherine's health status at the same time as the rest of the world, according to royal sources who spoke to publications including The Sun and The Times. The ramifications were immediately noted by commentators. According to royal analyst Richard Fitzwilliams, the complete breakdown of trust between Harry and the other members of the royal family was mirrored in the lack of previous contact. The family no longer thought Harry and Meghan could be trusted to keep personal affairs private, not because they didn't care. The memoir, the docuseries, and years of interviews had taken their toll. Even though it was a devastating revelation, it revealed a lot about the relationship's condition. The intimacy Harry had once enjoyed with Catherine had been replaced by distrust, hesitancy, and total emotional detachment. However, not everyone was prepared to abandon efforts at reconciliation. Several rumors circulated in the days after Catherine's announcement that Harry and Meghan had made secret contact. Chris Shipp, an ITV host, said that texts were delivered, although it was not apparent what was said. The event was seen by some pundits as a possible turning point. Ryan McCormick, a public relations specialist, told the Mirror that Catherine's diagnosis could be important enough to ease long-standing animosities. He proposed that when faced with something as grave and human as disease, even the most profound emotional gaps may be bridged. Others had less hope. Although Catherine and William were open to mending the split, any discussions would be subject to restrictions, according to royal analyst Tom Quinn. In particular, it was rumored that Catherine would only agree to meet Harry by herself, without Meghan there. The message, whether accurate or not, was obvious. There were still problems that were too terrible to ignore. According to Quinn, William and Catherine even recommended that Harry and Meghan bring their kids to the UK so that the families might try to re-establish some sort of relationship. But according to reports, the notion had not yet gained traction. The royal family remained silent in the weeks following Princess Catherine's public revelation, refusing to address any rumors or conjecture regarding internal communications. There was a rise in public sympathy for Catherine. She received messages from all across the world, and her respectful handling of such a private issue was warmly commended. The concern of what, if anything, this would signify for her relationship with Prince Harry persisted in the midst of this outpouring of sympathy. It briefly appeared as though the seriousness of Catherine's medical condition may ease the strained boundaries between them. Family relationships frequently react differently to instances of genuine human vulnerability, even in the face of distance and betrayal. According to reports, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, who are currently residing in California, made secret contact. They did not reveal the content of their message, but it was obvious that they had taken note of the announcement. Reactions from royal specialists were divided. Some, such as royal analyst Ingrid Seward, pointed out that although Catherine would be amenable to re-establishing contact, she would probably not take any more action without King Charles's approval. Others saw Prince William as the true barrier, not Catherine. It was well known that the events of the previous few years, especially the release of Harry's memoir Spare, had left William extremely hurt. He did not believe that trust could be readily regained. According to a number of sources, William was still dubious that any correspondence with Harry would be kept confidential, particularly after the family learned of specifics of private discussions that were either shared with the media or included in Harry's book. The two couples temporarily reunited for a second occasion, but under quite different conditions, while royal observers discussed the possibility of a reconciliation. In addition to Harry's anguish, the public's attention was drawn to whether he and Meghan would support William and Catherine when he returned to the UK in September of 2016 for Queen Elizabeth's burial. Unexpectedly, the two spouses showed up together for a walkabout outside Windsor Castle, where they inspected floral tributes to the late Queen and spoke to mourners. The encounter between them was tense, despite the event's intended serious and unifying tone. The four continued to exhibit tense body language, with little eye contact and few intimate interactions, according to observers. Based on reports in Oklahoma, the incident was not the symbol of reconciliation that it seemed to be, according to magazines like The Mirror. According to one insider, Catherine had discreetly gathered Harry to ask him about his future plans, specifically the Netflix documentary series and his autobiography. "Why did you betray us?" she reportedly asked him bluntly. Although it is unknown whether that particular statement was uttered, other royal correspondents have claimed that Catherine was extremely offended by the course of events. She had once thought of Harry as family. Furthermore, her sense of betrayal was intensely personal now that private experiences had been transformed into worldwide talking points. Despite appearing to be amicable, the walkabout apparently made both sides feel more emotionally cut off than before. This leads us to January 2, 2023, when Spare was released, which was a major turning point for many people in the royal household. Harry's presentation of personal incidents involving William and Catherine garnered special attention in addition to the institution's broader concerns. His description of the notorious Nazi clothing incident from 2005 was among the most devastating. Harry claimed that he sought advice from William and Catherine when deciding between a pilot's suit and a Nazi uniform for a party. He claims that when he tried on the Nazi costume, they laughed and encouraged it. This disclosure sparked a quick response. The story received international media attention, and criticism flooded in. Others questioned whether it was necessary to include his brother and sister-in-law in such a delicate and contentious story, even though Harry insisted that he was speaking the truth. The insinuation was particularly harmful to Catherine. Her reputation had always been one of integrity and self-control. It was difficult for the palace to accept being linked to a highly denounced event, even if it had occurred some 20 years prior. This detail appeared to reverse any gains gained during the Queen's memorial service or Prince Philip's funeral, which was already strained between Catherine and Harry. For many royal observers, it was the ultimate betrayal of confidence, not merely a dispute. The prospect of a peaceful reunion appeared less and less likely after that. Insiders suggested that Catherine had been severely hurt by the information revealed in Harry's book, despite her long-standing decision to keep her feelings and thoughts to herself. In the weeks after the release, Harry was more forthcoming in California. In interviews promoting Spare, such as an appearance on Good Morning America, he consistently stated that accountability would be necessary to achieve peace with his family. He stated that he desired honesty from the royal household, as well as from his own side. His comments provoked more discussion in the American and British media. His demand for accountability was deemed realistic by some. Others saw it as another public jab at a family that has a reputation for remaining silent. Despite not publicly responding to any of these claims, Catherine and William's lack of attendance at any subsequent joint engagements with Harry and Meghan said a lot. The feeling of alienation was evident, persistent, and unresolved. It was no longer conjecture. Harry was not invited to any official gatherings or ceremonies hosted by King Charles, or he participated in them under quite different conditions. For instance, Harry was the only person present during the coronation of the king in May of 2023. He sat separate from the working royals and left soon after the ceremony was over. He did not spend any significant time with William or Catherine during his brief visit. However, not all royal specialists were prepared to abandon hope. According to royal biographer Christopher Anderson, who spoke to Fox News, Harry and Catherine used to be quite close, and he was profoundly impacted by her cancer diagnosis. Anderson thought that if Harry could, he would really like to re-establish that relationship. Even Anderson acknowledged the complexity of the future, though. Too many intimate moments had been made public. Too many words had been spoken. The whole dynamic was different. Catherine was receiving therapy back in the UK while still carrying out a small amount of job duties. Concern had been raised by her absence from public events earlier that year, which ultimately resulted in her declaration. She and William both kept quiet about Harry throughout it all. Their children and the Princess of Wales's health were their top priorities, at least in public. According to some insiders, Catherine was amenable to the notion of making amends with Harry during their quieter times, but with some restrictions. According to them, those boundaries would entail minimizing Meghan's involvement, refraining from public discourse, and taking any necessary precautions. Harry's own tone, however, wavered between reiterating the hurt that had accumulated over the years and occasionally expressing a wish to move on. Nothing tangible appeared to alter between the once close in-laws, despite rumors of reconciliation continuing to make headlines. What had once been warmth had long since cooled, and now stillness filled the void, protecting it. Publicly, neither party took any action against the other, and reports suggested that private communication was either non-existent or very limited. Following her cancer diagnosis, Catherine made few but deliberate public appearances while undergoing treatment. She gracefully stepped back from numerous commitments while still carrying out her duties. Insiders observed behind closed doors that the mistrust sprang from what could still be said as much as what had been spoken. Members of the royal family were wary since Harry and Meghan were known to present their side of the story in written reports, documentaries, and interviews. According to reports, Catherine in particular was not prepared to accept the chance of her emotional scars becoming public knowledge again because she had established a reputation for prudence and quiet power. Harry's efforts to market his memoir, meantime, persisted far into the first part of the year 2023. His main point, that peace was achievable only through accountability and the truth, was reiterated in a number of interviews. Harry made it clear in one interview with Good Morning America that reconciliation was unlikely without an honest dialogue. Although his comments were not directed specifically at Catherine, it was difficult to keep her out of the larger picture considering the events of the previous few years. Analysts and royal commentators offered their opinions as these statements made their way through the media. Some others thought Harry's remarks were genuinely hurtful. Others contended that talking about issues in public rather than in private just served to widen the gulf. Meanwhile, Catherine said nothing. She didn't say anything, leak anything, or react in any way. As many saw, that quiet said a lot. Still, tiny flashes of touch appeared from time to time. One such incident happened soon after the video of Catherine's diagnosis. Several media publications, such as ITV and The Mirror, stated that the Sussexes and Waleses had been exchanging texts. These reports, meanwhile, were ambiguous and unsubstantiated. According to some royal insiders, Harry and Meghan's messages were acknowledged, but nothing more was done. Others asserted that in order to concentrate on their obligations and family, William and Catherine had established clear boundaries. Although there may be individual initiatives to restore politeness, royal analyst Tom Quinn said that a complete reconciliation was too soon. According to reports, there was still disagreement over Meghan's participation in any upcoming meetings. Quinn claims that Catherine was not against seeing Harry, but only on her terms, which included seclusion, secrecy, and keeping Meghan out of the conversation. As the recent months' dust settled, Prince Harry's public persona kept changing. He had forged his own career and was no longer the spare living in his brother's shadow, but at the expense of many personal connections, particularly with Catherine. She had been more than a sister-in-law for years. Even before Meghan entered the scene, she had been his confidant and someone he looked to in trying times. However, they are no longer in communication. The majority of royal insiders actually said that they had no relationship. However, there have been rumors that the news of Catherine's illness had a profound impact on Harry. According to royal author Christopher Anderson, who spoke to Fox News, Harry and Catherine used to be very close, and he was deeply saddened by her diagnosis. Harry would be thrilled to re-establish their friendship, Anderson said. However, even he admitted that it would be difficult. There had been too much. An excessive number of intimate moments had been made public. There had been too many comments. Their previous bond's simplicity had long since been obscured by the clamor of internal discord and public scrutiny. Because of this, Catherine found herself in a situation where any decision to get back in touch with Harry had a great deal of institutional and emotional weight. She continued to concentrate on her therapy and shielding her kids from the turmoil that had engulfed the royal household in recent years, according to royal observers. She had not discussed her connection with Harry in public, but according to people close to the palace, she was disappointed in both the words and the way things had been handled. The thought of their private past being made public for analysis had struck a deep chord with someone who had always treated others with dignity and privacy. William had also maintained his position. Until there were noticeable behavioral changes, insiders frequently saw that he showed little desire in interacting with his sibling. His worries were pragmatic as well as emotional. According to reports, William was afraid that any fresh communication with Harry would make headlines once more and endanger his family and the monarchy. Catherine, who had already dealt with the demands of royal life while juggling a personal health fight, shared this protective instinct. Harry, meantime, seemed to hold out hope. He kept talking about the need for accountability and healing in his media appearances. However, there was now no obvious way forward for that hope. Since Meghan has mostly avoided recent public discussions on royal affairs, several people wondered if a more focused strategy between Harry and his brother and sister-in-law alone might be feasible. But given the current situation, Even that appeared improbable, according to a number of analysts. The issue of reconciliation was left hanging in the air as the months went by. The public, which had previously been excited about signs of reconciliation, started to acknowledge that this might be a rift that would be difficult to heal. Catherine continued to focus her energies inward, on her responsibilities, her family, and her health. The loss of that friendship appeared to weigh more heavily on Harry than he acknowledged. However, in the realm of royalty, silence frequently speaks louder than words. The video for today has now come to an end. Make sure to see the other videos on the channel if you've followed us this far.